Now then, Leeds United fans, welcome back to Straight Talking Leeds, where you can guarantee that you will get your straight talking Leeds information. Now, I am trying to find a regular kind of slot in my diary to do this. I would like to do it a little bit more often, but truthfully, I get in my own head about the fact that on the live, I do this in front of no people, but I continue regardless because my intention is to eventually build a community of like-minded Leeds fans where opinions can be broadcast, but you're going to get no shit. You're just going to get it straight. You're going to get the reality of what the situation for a Leeds United fan and Leeds United person is. You're not going to get no agendas. You're not going to get any sort of BS just to grab in the numbers. That's not what I'm about. I want to be a little bit different to what you see on the masses within the space. That doesn't mean everybody, but my reason, my why for starting this channel and really pursuing this was because I was sick of what I was watching myself, and I love content. I'm proud to be part of the West Yorkshire Football Show, which is a great show, covers all sorts of all areas of football from a West Yorkshire perspective, and yeah, I wanted to set something out, doing something a little bit different on my own. So here we are. Please smash a like, a subscribe, drop a comment. I will respond to every single comment. It's really important to me that I look to grow the community in the way that I want to. So enough babbling. I've actually just said all of this once already and then realised that my mic was muted. So yeah, that was fun. So I'm going to try and authentically give you this information again. So we're going to start off by talking about the first confirmed signing of the summer, which is Mr. Harry Wilson. Now, Harry Wilson, it's been the worst kept secret in football, to be honest. He has been pretty much confirmed as a Leeds United player for about 2 weeks through the big media outlets. Fabrizio got hold of it as well, but before that it was reported by anybody close to Leeds, really, and it's no surprise. We went for him last summer. The deal was pretty much done before Fulham pulled the plug at the last minute, and that at the time was absolutely devastating, if I'm honest. The Harry Wilson deal would have made such a difference come the end of the transfer window last summer. Who knows where we would have ended up potentially finishing with the season that Harry Wilson has had in a Leeds shirt. Now, would that have replicated? We don't know. That's all the kind of butterfly effect. We don't know. But what we do know is the season that Harry's just had. There's an argument to be made that between the start of the season and January, he was the best performing player within the Premier League. He went on to win Fulham's Player of the Season and won Premier League Goal of the Season as well. Harry has got obviously a wonder goal in his locker. He's got assists, he's got goals, he's creative, he can play a 10, he can play out wide, and he seriously improves the options that Leeds United have got. Now, the great news with Harry Wilson, above everything else, is that he comes in as a free transfer. A lot of people have been saying, well, there's no resale value on Harry Wilson. There doesn't need to be a resale value on Harry Wilson. We've made this a free transfer. It's an absolute no-brainer. Very similar to signing Dominic Calvert-Lewin a year ago. You know, you could have argued that there was more pedigree with DCL, and I could get on board with that. But what you couldn't argue with DCL is that he also had an injury history. So there was probably more of a risk attached to Calvert-Lewin than there is to Harry Wilson. I don't think there's any risk to this signing, if I'm honest. He signed a 4-year deal. It'll take him to 33 years old. Hopefully by that point we're looking to evolve our squad even more, and Harry becomes part of our squad. He becomes, you know, somebody that can facilitate with his experience from the bench, etc. Now, he's very experienced as a Premier League player. Obviously, we know him from the Championship as well. He's a top international with Wales, and I do think that the bond within the squad, within the Welsh boys, is also an important factor to take into this signing and into this transfer. I really see him being a mainstay within the side. I don't think he'd have signed for Leeds United without a guarantee of playing week in, week out. I think that's one of the reasons why we were able to, one of many reasons actually, why we were able to get ahead of the likes of Aston Villa and Everton. You know, we've made his intentions clear, but the Welsh boys will have played a massive factor, especially Ethan Ampadu. So I'm delighted with this signing. Love all the footage that we've had from from the official sources, from Leeds United, with kind of making us all excited for this signing. It's great time. Now, pre-season is about to start on Monday, and all of the Football League have already started having pre-season friendlies, which is absolutely crazy when you think about it. But before you know it, we're going to be back into full swing of the season. The truth is, because of the World Cup, it's felt like we've not been away, and we kind of haven't. It's been great. It's been great to continuously have football. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see all of the footage that comes forward from Leeds United when the boys come back into training. They all get to meet Harry for the first time. A lot of them know him. Harry Wilson thought it was great that he brought up the 2019 game, and he said it was the best atmosphere he'd ever played in front of. I can believe that when Stuart Dallas scored that goal at Ellen Road in the eventual loss to Derby in the playoff semi-finals, the roof went off. I've never seen anything like it. The scarves all before kick-off, the atmosphere that we generated that day was so loud, and when Dallas scored, he took the absolute roof off. But Harry Wilson was a big part of that team that overturned that deficit, and as was Jayden Bogle. He made reference to knowing Jayden from their time together at Derby, and obviously he knows Dan James, Ethan Ampadu, Joe Rodon, Karl Darlow, Charlie Crew, I'm guessing as well, if you wanted to mention him. So yeah, it's going to be a really interesting signing, but it's one that we should all be very, very excited about. Now I'm going to move on from Harry Wilson, because I've got a bit that I want to talk about today. Let's go on to talk about Karl Darlow. Now, what is happening with Karl Darlow? Now, I've got nothing but opinion on this. I don't think there's anything really out there as to this is where Karl's at, or these are the offers that are on the table. Obviously, it's been reported that Manchester United will be interested should they be able to move on the Turkish goalkeeper. I forget his name. Onana's gone back out on loan. They've obviously now got Lemons, who's their number one. If they're able to move out their number two, Karl Darlow will come in as their backup option. It'd be a great signing for Manchester United, but it doesn't sound to me like there's an actual offer on the table from Manchester United for Karl Darlow. It's just registered interest. If this set of circumstances plays out in the way that we are expecting it to, then you will be one of the options. I believe the same goes for Everton, in that he would go in there as a number two for Jordan Pickford. And Leeds United, I'm led to believe, have given him assurances on his first team position. I would imagine that it'll be a first team position for this season, with the expectation that we'll sign another goalkeeper that will then become number one next season. So we'll either sign them this summer for next season, or we'll sign them next summer completely, and we'll go with Lucas Perry for another year. I believe that Lucas Perry, if he's not going to be the number one at Leeds United, will look to move on, which leaves Leeds United in a really, really difficult position. Because then, how do you sign a backup keeper that's good enough to play with giving assurances to Karl Darlow that he's going to be the number one? So I think that's why we find this kind of middle ground silence position that we find ourselves in. As we currently find it, Karl Darlow has actually been a free transfer now for 8 days. He's got no club as it currently stands. The great thing from a Karl Darlow perspective is he knows he's got loads of options. There's nothing for him to worry about, because at the end of the day, he knows he's going to be able to find another club. He's had a great season at Leeds United last season. He has got other offers already on the table. He can either go into the backup position, or he can go into the number one slot at different levels. Karl Darlow was massively linked with Spurs if Spurs went down, and that would have made a lot of sense, right? Because at the end of the day, he would have already shown he could do it at Championship level, and then already shown that he could do it at Premier League level as well. And Spurs would have been desperate for a safe pair of hands for a couple of seasons if they got relegated to the Championship. So that rumour made a lot of sense to me. So, yeah, we find ourselves in a little bit of a dark spot. Now, the boys, as I said earlier, are due to be back. Thank you very much for the follow there. Good old Diggler, moving over from West Yorkshire Football Show. Really appreciate your comment. I bet if they up Darlow's wages sufficiently, then he'll stay. And he's proved in the past that he doesn't mind being a number two. I think that's a really fair point, Diggler. I think it's a really, really fair point. I think at the end of the day with Darlow, he probably understands his position at this stage of his footballing career, but I'd also argue that he's worked extremely hard to put himself into the shop window to be a bona fide number one. You know, I had my serious reservations with Darlow a year ago when he was kind of, not a year ago, sorry, 18 months ago when he first came in for Ilan, and then when he was then again brought in for Perry. You know, we saw the Sheffield Wednesday performance in the Cup at the early part of last season. He's capable of a ricket, and he's never really been able to establish himself as a number one in the Premier League. He's been a number two for a long, long time, but I'm happy to kind of register the fact that he proved me wrong, because the performances that we saw from Karl from when he came in for Lucas Perry, I think it was January time this year, to the end of the season, it was almost faultless. He ended up getting, I think, save of the season. He was definitely in the voting for save of the season for his save against Wolves. He made many big saves. He made a huge save against Manchester United at Old Trafford, which ended up helping us win that game. So I think he's done enough to probably earn a shirt, and I can understand his position. He's going to want to play. He's not got many years left on the clock as far as a footballer is concerned. He's 35 years old. He's now Wales number one. Does he need to be playing first team football week in, week out to be Wales number one? That's going to be important. He might be able to meet another World Cup. You know, if Wales were to qualify in 2030, Karl Darlow will be 39. There were 3, I think, 40-year-old goalkeepers at this tournament just gone. Wales haven't got a huge influx of top players coming through. You know, the goalkeeper position's always been a bit of an issue. They had Danny Ward for a long time and he wasn't good enough. Wayne Hennessy was a solid enough option, but I'd argue that the version of Karl Darlow that we're seeing at the minute is better than both of them. So it's a really tricky position for Karl Darlow. I was going to say that the pre-season window, that's not what you call it, but the return of pre-season happens on Monday for all of the players. Come Monday, it's going to be really interesting to see if we walk through the doors with only Lucas Perry as the registered goalkeeper at Leeds United. Because I mean, who's going to be doing the ball work for the goalkeepers? Right now, Cairns hasn't re-signed. I believe that he will, because that makes a lot of sense for the homegrown, and you know he's happy being a third keeper. He obviously stepped up to sign for Leeds United at the beginning of last season. He gave up first team football to come and obviously play the role that he did at Leeds United. We've got no Karl Darlow as it currently stands. He won't be able to come back in, I wouldn't imagine, without a contract, or he won't do that himself, because why would he risk getting injured for a club that he's not playing for? And Illan Meslier is obviously left on a free transfer and has been confirmed as Arsenal's new number 3 at the moment, but expected to be number 2 when Kepa Arrizabalaga moves on from Arsenal. Let's just talk about that quickly, because I know it's blown a lot of Leeds fans' minds. It's a really, really interesting one. I think Arsenal have looked at it from a point of view of, look, this is a free transfer. It means that we can plug up a spot within the squad, reduce the wages, because I'd imagine that Illan will be on a lot less than Kepa. I think he obviously has got a massive amount of experience as a first team number 1. He's got a massive amount of Premier League experience as well for his age. I think they're seeing potential resale value if they can rediscover some of his form. Could they rebuild him back up? I'm not so sure. If David Raya gets an injury early on in the season, you know, and the transfer window's closed and Illan Meslier is expected to be Arsenal's number 1, I would be extremely worried from an Arsenal perspective at this stage of Mellier's career. But look, maybe the year out of the limelight, the year with no pressure, maybe it's helped to rebuild Illan Meslier. I'm not so sure. You know, 2 years ago, Illan said that he wasn't going to move to anywhere that he wasn't considered as a number 1. Chelsea were interested in, you know, taking him from Leeds to fill the number 2 spot. He decided to stay at Leeds United. What's changed in between now and then that's made Illan be okay with rebuilding as a number 2 at a club like Arsenal, as opposed to going into someone maybe at the bottom of the league? Could he have enticed an Ipswich or maybe not Coventry? I know they'll go for the lad from Brighton, but you know, that kind of club, or even dropping back into the Championship to rebuild. What stopped him seeing it as being that over the other? Maybe it's money. You know, Arsenal will still pay their number 2 goalkeeper a hell of a lot of money. Maybe that's just where Illan is at 26, I think he is now, 26, 27. So yeah, it's a really interesting one with Illan Meslier, and we'll see what comes of that. I'm going to move on from the goalkeeper side of things. I think Karl Darlow, just to kind of round up my feelings, I think Karl Darlow signs a new contract at Leeds United. And I think that we go into this season my gut instinct is telling me that we're going to this season with Karl Darlow as the number 1, Lucas Perry as the number 2, with the potential for Lucas to earn his spot back through the cup, injuries, suspensions, loss of form. That's what I think will happen. I know there's been a lot of interest in the likes of Suzuki. Trafford obviously always gets mentioned. Other goalkeepers as well. The Derby goalkeeper. Names always end up Stremerson. Is that how you pronounce it? Anyway, you know what I mean. Lots of names flying around, and I do believe that there is genuine fire behind that smoke that kind of brings them rumours, but I think it's more in a reserve option of Karl Darlow right now. I think it makes more sense to put the money into other areas of the pitch with the idea that we'll look at this again in a year's time. That's what I think will eventually happen. So, let's quickly move on from that, because I don't want to be on too long today. I kind of wanted to rattle through it, but as in typical Jay fashion, I can waffle. So, Shea Charles. Let's talk about Shea Charles. I personally said it about a week ago now that I thought the Shea Charles deal would end up stalling, and that is the rumours that are kind of coming out from the Leeds press over the last 24 hours or so. I think Leeds have probably found their limit to where they're prepared to go for in this, and it's now going to leave an opportunity open for some of the other clubs that might have been interested in Shea Charles to maybe steal a match on Leeds United. Crystal Palace have registered an interest as well. I am not unhappy with this. It's not my money, and I always kind of feel like at the end of the day, if the club value a certain player at a certain price, you just have to say fine, and as a fan, you just look forward to the signing. But all that being said, I think 30 million for a player in the last year of his contract, I think they have got a +1 on his deal though. But a player that also wants to leave, I think, given his lack of Premier League experience, not that that matters as such, but top level experience, it worries me that 30 million is too much. Now, we could sign him for 30 million, and in a year's time he'd be worth 60 million. That's just the way of football, and that's why some of these figures for younger players are wild and so high, because there is so much potential for resale value, and I think Shea Charles has that, but still, there is still a limit of what we're prepared to use from our budget for this summer on that place, when Shea Charles arguably is going to go in competition for Ethan Ampadu. I think he's going to be a replacement for Ilya Gruev. So, all that in mind, I don't mind us moving on from this one. Now, there has been a bunch of other names rumoured. I did the video the other day on the lad from Parma. It's hard to say at this point whether it's anything more than just pure rumour mill. So, I'm not going to talk about other names with regards to the midfield spot, because I don't think there's anything concrete enough. But I think right now, I think Shea Charles is probably unlikely to come to Leeds United unless a fee can be found in and around what Leeds have already offered, 20 to 25 million, maybe with potential, sell-on clauses, maybe with potential add-ons upon Leeds staying in the Premier League, appearances, things like that. The lad from Parma is Mandalay Kayate. He was also being linked. He's been spoken about a couple of times now. There is genuine potential for that one to maybe gather more pace as Shea Charles maybe goes to the back burner. But I think Shea Charles wants a Leeds move. It'll be interesting to see how that one kind of works out. So let's just have a quick look at whatever else is going on, and if there is any other rumours that you want me to discuss, please pop them in the chat. The centre back situation that we find ourselves in. So Diamande has gone dead quiet. That was picking up a lot of pace earlier on in the window. Doesn't make a lot of sense in terms of comparison with Pascal Struijk, because Pascal Struijk's left-footed, Diamande is right-footed. So there's going to be a clamour for a replacement centre back. Now, I actually think that Leeds United will sign 2 centre backs during this window. I would maybe imagine a world in which Sebastian Bornau moves on to get first team football and play week in, week out. I'd argue that it's probably fair to do that. I think what we've seen from Sebastian Bornau is pretty comfortable. I think he's a pretty well established top level centre back. and whether that's a Premier League centre back or not, I'm not sure. But you know, the Bundesliga, I think for a fully fit Sebastian Bornau would probably be a good move. He's still at a pretty good age. I think he's 25, 26. He's not, you know, over the hill by any stretch of the imagination. But is he going to really challenge the first choice centre backs at Premier League level for Leeds United? I'm not so sure. It'll be an interesting one to see. If we sign one, does then Bornau stay as that role? And if an injury comes in, he's capable of covering that. Can we sign two left-footed centre backs? We've also got the question of Max Wöber, and a lot of Leeds fans don't like to hear it, and I understand the reason as to why, but Max Wöber could potentially still be an option for Leeds United as a third choice centre, well, like a third choice. Yeah, it'd end up being like a fifth choice, but like a reserve left centre back or left full back. Yeah, that's another interesting conversation to have. Right now, I am struggling to see any names that are popping up as far as the centre-back position is concerned. I know there's been a few names like wafting around. I know Lukemi, the Colombian centre-back, has been mentioned by some. I don't see that happening. I see the fee being way too high for that one. One that I did like, and I've always liked him, is Calvin Bassey. That has been mentioned a couple of times as well in a few reports. I think it's nothing more than just a kind of fan piece. But Calvin Bassey from Fulham's a player that I've always really liked. Again, left-footed, bit more dynamic, far better at progressing the ball than Pascal Struijk. Is he a better defender? I'm not so sure, but he's definitely quicker. And he's probably not as good in the air as Pascal either. But I'd say all the essential ingredients, he would be a serious upgrade on Pascal Struijk. So yeah, it's an interesting one. What we're going to do in that area of the pitch, not so sure as of yet, but we will see. We will see. I'm looking forward to the return of the boys to Thorpe Arch next week for pre-season, and then things will start picking up pace. Things will start moving much quicker. You know, we're going to have to get answers on the goalkeepers. I'm pretty sure that Carl's probably been told, look, you've got up until the 10th of July, you know, tomorrow, to make a decision, so we can start making some actual plans for pre-season, because without them, well, we can't be ready for the season. A goalkeeper is such a massive position. You know, we are also linked with strikers, but there's so much in just the paper talk at the minute that it's really difficult to kind of grab hold of what could be real and what is just filling the gaps. As an example, you know, Aston Villa are now monitoring 3 midfielders because of the Onana injury. That's then changed things. They've been given tentative links to Autanaka. They're also looking at Lamine Camara, Papagay, and Mandela Keita, who obviously has been linked with Leeds. So these things all change so quickly. You know, would Autanaka be a good backup option for an Aston Villa if he's not going to be made assurances at Leeds United? I'm not so sure. I think his best place for this coming season for Autanaka would be Leeds United. So yeah, it's all very fluid. It's all very moving at the minute. Nothing too much more concrete than that. I do believe that we will see movement in the goalkeeper position definitely by the end of next week as an absolute maximum. But I'd be shocked if at least Keynes or Darlow hasn't signed a new contract come Monday morning. So I'm going to leave it there for today, Leeds fans. Thank you very much for joining me. Please do smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you've not already. Pay attention for these streams that are coming. I am going to try and do them more than once a week, just to kind of have an overview of where we're at. And keep an eye on the shorts. I do like to do my YouTube shorts as well, just to keep you as up to date as possible with all the Leeds United news. And we will be running this throughout the whole of this coming season, so I'd love to bring a load of you along with me. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.